Hey guys, what is happening? AnimetalViking here. Just a quick note before we get into this podcast. I have to apologize to you guys. What happened with this particular episode of the podcast is that one of the three members, my buddy Paul, he forgot to plug in his microphone while we were recording, and as a result, all he got recorded was silence, just static. So unfortunately, his audio is just faintly in the background as a result of some typical microphone interference that I couldn't fully get rid of when editing Galactic Criminal's audio. So I do apologize for the lack of overall quality with this podcast, but if you guys are still interested in hearing what Peter has to say about Berserk, seeing as Paul and I were the ones who introduced him to this franchise, then be sure to carry on listening, and I do hope you enjoy it despite the glitch and the hiccup that occurred during the recording of this podcast. So yeah guys, I do encourage you to check out both of their channels. They will be linked in the description box below and at the end of this video. Please show them all the love and support you can give them. Paul does gaming videos and the odd anime videos from time to time, and obviously Galactic Criminal, he does a lot of reactions to metal music videos, and he also does the odd skit or Mark Hamill Joker impersonation from time to time. So definitely show them lots of love and support, and thank you so much guys for tuning in. So enjoy the lost episode of the AnimetalKast. So I'll see you at the end of the podcast. Take care and enjoy. Hey guys, what is happening, and welcome to the very first episode of the Otakast, a completely separate podcast series where all of us weeaboos and music nerds get together and talk shit about anime and music. And today's topic, we are going to be talking about Berserk and RWBY. So basically, guys, for those of you who don't know out there, Paul and I are huge Berserk fans, and also welcome to the show, Paul. It's your first time on the channel.
Thank you.
And obviously, Peter is here as well. You'll remember him from the AnimetalKast where we interviewed him. You'll know him as Galactic Criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lou. And so we'll be talking about Berserk today. Paul and I are huge fans of Berserk, and for those of you out there who don't know, we've seen the original Berserk anime, so before you go typing in the comments as to why we haven't seen it yet, yes, we have seen it. The reason we are hosting this podcast today is because Peter has seen the show for the first time, but he watched the movies, and so for today's podcast, we'll be focusing mainly on the Golden Age arc, so we won't be touching on too much stuff outside of that, but if we do and it's relative to the Golden Age arc, then we'll be doing so. And yeah, and also stay tuned for all the good RWBY stuff towards the end. So yeah, let's get on with this. Okay, so Peter, what were your overall thoughts and impressions of the story of Berserk and the movies in general?
Okay, so well, I guess I would probably start by saying that I'm kind of more of a weeb than the other two guys here, that I'm generally just getting back into watching animes again, especially after watching Berserk. I've watched several since on Netflix. Now, my thoughts on Berserk, it's fucking incredible. Fucking incredible. It's kind of like the pièce de résistance for me for checking out anime, because like I've talked to you before, Russ, that I'm not the hugest fan on some of the cheesier style of animes. I like stuff that's a lot more mature and I guess kind of a little more grounded. And this was everything that I absolutely wanted. Like you suggested, check it out. I checked out the first part on Netflix, and right by the end of that, I was like, well, I gotta fucking binge the whole thing. The story is fucking just fantastic. Taking like a medieval type stance was really cool, and I think it's really awesome about it was that nobody really seemed to have like magical powers, at least for the first bit. It's kind of spoilery that they do later in a way, but yeah, just the brutal fighting, the character development was absolutely fantastic. The animation was great. Yeah, the story for itself, kind of straightforward to a degree for the most part, and then just took the biggest fucking 180 hook at the end. And it just went weird as fuck, and just the build up to that I guess kind of moment just was absolutely perfect. That's what I think.
Awesome. And I think Paul and I can agree because, if there's one thing the author of Berserk, Kentaro Miura, has been praised for, it is his ability to write very grounded, realistic, believable characters and really have them kind of not I wouldn't say like be the sole reason the story carries on, because you get some stories where the characters carry the story or the story carries the characters. Like somehow their personalities and everything they do just goes so well with the events that are happening, and it really aids in their development and everything. And it's absolutely incredible just how much you can relate to a lot of the characters, even the ones that can seem a bit douchey at first, but then you realize like, oh, maybe there's a reason why they're like that. So and even a guy who's like as much of a piece of shit as he is Griffith, like to some degree you can like look at him and be like, oh, okay, I can see where he's coming from, but I still think he's a piece of shit. So
Definitely.
Yeah. I kind of thought Griffith was more of like a I guess what would you call it? More like a self prophet. He thought really really high of himself, but didn't show it. I guess more on the surface until like later on. Like obviously spoilers, gets just brutally tortured for so fucking long, and just comes out of that shit just totally broken, and was kind of like reborn, but like takes that kind of deity mindset that he had, trying to become like the king of all the lands and everything, and just being given this quote unquote gift at the end just kind of like put that personality way over the friggin' top.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and the thing, with Griffith is like you can see like how it kind of paraphrases references that whole thing in reality, where like your intentions and your goals and everything can like start off being good and stuff, but just how corrupted you can become just after several bad decisions and all sorts of stuff. Like it really is something that Miura pulled off really fucking well, and the way he did it with the twist as well, because like the story starts off, you're thinking like, oh, it's just a normal kind of a fantasy, but then they put that he puts in that hint there that when they encounter Zod, that it's like, okay, there's some more shit going on, but you don't think about it until that twist happens much later in the story, and then you're like, well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, the whole thing with Zod definitely like leaves you thinking like, what the fuck is he talking about when he notices like the deal. That was one of the things that really had me sticking to, like, made me want to finish the anime when I first ran through it. Is the whole medieval thing, like, at first it didn't really wasn't a whole really attractive theme for me, but fucking after that scene, I was just I could not stop watching. I literally could not look away.
And now, Peter, you haven't seen the 1997 one, but Paul and I need to tell you this. Zod, if you had to see that same fight scene in the original 1997 one, the art design, the way they do it, like, like those old pictures and stuff you'd see of things from like hell and shit, it's even the same in the Eclipse scene. Like, it's way more eerie than the 3D models and the lighting and shit that they chose in the movies. But the one thing I'll give the movies credit for is this, is the fact that like a lot of the scenes are a lot more like there's some of them pack a bit more of a punch because of obviously the upgrade in animation and the way it's directed. A prime example being that scene where, spoilers for everyone listening out there, they're going to be spoilers the whole way, the scene where Guts accidentally kills that kid. Like in the 1997 anime, like it had an impact, but looking back on it in comparison to the way it's directed in the movies, like in the movie one, the way it's done, it's like you genuinely feel like, oh shit, even though if you watch the 1997 one, you're like, well, I've seen it before, but oh shit, so the movies definitely had their strengths in that regard, but some scenes were cut out. I believe in the movies they cut out that scene where Griffith actually kills the queen, I believe. Is that right, Sir Paul?
You know what? I can't remember.
Fuck, we're fucked. But I think they did. I think they did because I don't recall seeing it in the movie where Griffith kills.
Oh no! Yes, yeah, that's absolutely right. I do remember that.
Yeah, where he kills the queen, and that's yeah.
Whole movie.
Yeah, and those other guys, the little bald guy and all that, who helped him do it and stuff. So I think that was a key part of the story because that actually shows how Griffith got to that final position before Guts decides to leave for that journey of his for a year. So I think but I mean, they are constrained with time, you know. I mean, those are more or less summary movies of the entire Golden Age.
Yeah, there definitely are a few moments where you start to notice these subtle changes in Griffith and his demeanor. Well, maybe not necessarily changes, but glimpses into who he really is and what leads up to his ultimate decision of sacrificing the entire band.
Yeah. And what else? Oh yes. Now, Peter. Now, obviously, you said you loved how the characters developed, and in the messages when we were talking on Twitter, you kept telling me how much you really loved Guts' character. So, can you please tell us what it is that you really liked about Guts, like his whole personality?
I think actually to do with that, kind of touching on the fact that he killed the young boy, and like you said, that just kind of like took you aback a little bit. I was like, oh fuck, because like for this character, it seemed that he's not simple-minded, but very simple focused. That he just wants to fight, essentially. But he has it seems a very strict moral code. You know, that he likes to take care of people, even though he doesn't really put it forward that that's what he wants to do. And so at that point, when he killed that kid, I was like, oh fuck, this is gonna fuck him up huge. Just the look on his face as he's just staring at this kid bleeding out. So I think that it was a very strong turning point for that character, which I thought was really kind of like almost like a crescendo as to like his character pushing forward that much faster after that moment, because to that point he seemed very strict and focused on serving Griffith, and yeah, and I think that point was like absolutely just a turning point for him rethinking his whole ideology as to who he is and what he wants to do. Probably another reason why he decided to leave, which just obviously turned on to Griffith, which fucked him up, because Griffith was so close to like attaining what he wanted. He probably could have done it if he didn't go and fuck that fucking king's daughter and shit. That just set everything in motion, I feel. So yeah, he's just he's a fantastic character, and who doesn't love a big angry fucking dude with a huge sword who can just fucking kill everybody.
Yeah, Guts definitely set that trend. So, like, definitely if you want to know where characters like Cloud or Ichigo get their fucking big ass swords and killing shit from, that's where it came from. But yeah, no, Peter, I definitely agree with you there. And also another part that made Guts get this thing where he's like, okay, I gotta leave, was after he killed that a guy and his kid. He when he's coming back to report to Griffith that the deed is done. I think I mentioned this in my analysis video of the use of score in the original series. Is when Guts is coming back and Casca's obviously following after him, and then he overhears Griffith say that a man can only truly be my equal and my friend if he has his own goals, his own whatever, and Guts this whole time thought that he and Griffith were friends because, you know, he was doing stuff for Griffith, but Griffith doesn't acknowledge anybody as his friend unless he has his own goals, his own thing, whatever, and that really set the thing where Guts is like, okay, I've got to reconsider everything, and that was also added to that epiphany that he had after killing the kid by accident. And like, when he killed that kid, like you said, Peter, like the look on his face and even how he reaches out to the kid, like, I think that is definitely, for me, out of all the scenes in the show, that is definitely the most memorable and really shows Guts' character, that he's not just this brute who kills shit with a sword. Like, he's actually a really gentle person, but like he doesn't know how to express it properly because of all the abuse he suffered as a child, and I think that's what makes him such a great character.
Yeah, I think prior to that whole event, there was only like one moment where Guts really showed a softer side, which was I think it was their first outing with him as the captain of the Raiders, and after that outing, Casca I guess has that little argument with him, suggesting that he only cares about himself, he doesn't value the lives of his other bandmates, and he has like just a small moment of remorse. I can't remember who he was talking to. I think it was like Judo or something. But yeah, I think that's the only time prior to that where he like does state that he does value the lives of the people around him.
Yeah, for sure. And if now Peter, if they adapted the material like they even with the 1997 one, they left out and adapted it in a way where it wasn't like the first episode of the original series doesn't take place like the movies that do, where it starts off with Guts as a teenager fighting those guys at that fortress and stuff, and then fighting the big guy Bazuzo. The original series starts off where the manga would already in the future, post eclipse thing, where Guts is hunting down the apostles and is looking for Griffith. Now, in the manga, it's already hinted in those first couple of chapters, those first couple of volumes, that it shows Guts is a lot more hardened and cruel in some ways after the events of the eclipse, but he still has that really caring side because of what happened with that count and the little girl. You remember, Paul, the count and the little girl who was locked in a room? Yeah, and the count guy was actually an apostle. And when Griffith finally appears, and then when he walks off, and the little girl, even though Guts saved her, and then she shouts after him, when I get older, I'm going to kill you one day. And then when Puck flies after Guts and sees his face, even though he had that wicked grin on his face earlier, he was just like really filled with sadness because he like knows like everywhere he goes, he just has all this tragedy following him. And I think that's something that, even though Guts looks like this really cruel guy who just like fucking beats the shit out of people and stabs them and crap, like he actually, it's not because, you know, like he's a bad person. It's just because fighting is the only thing he knows, and it's the only thing he was raised on. But he definitely wants to be accepted. He wants a place where he belongs, and it's so sad when he loses everything close to him. So yeah, that really makes him such an endearing character and very relatable in a way.
Yeah, man. By the end of that third part in the movies, obviously there's a lot that you guys are talking about that I don't know about because I haven't read the manga, and I probably won't. I'm not really big into the reading and shit like that when it comes to like manga and anime and comic books. I don't really get into that stuff. I think I've talked to you about that before, but I am very interested to see what happens now because like it kind of left everything on a cliffhanger at the end, and just the relationship between Griffith and Casca and why did I just forget his fucking name? Guts. Just the relationship triangle that was happening there, and the fact that Guts was kind of softened by Casca. And then she gets just fucking brutalized by the end, and she doesn't even remember him anymore. And they just had this built up.
Sad.
I'm like, well, what the fuck happens now? Is he gonna be fighting these fucking crazy demon creatures and shit? And like, I want to see more. So I kind of hope that they make some more of it. If not, like, I might have to take my first foray into manga to find out what happens there, because it's just just such a fucking cliffhanger ending. I'm like, well, what the fuck? It's kind of like watching, like we were talking about a while back, talking about that Castlevania anime on Netflix, and like 3 friggin' episodes, and I'm like, well, what the fuck now? You know? I was like, well, I want more. What the frick? So, yeah, I don't know, man. Just the relationships that were formed in this thing, I think, were very, very strong. And that's kind of what really pulled me in. I'll be honest, when I first started watching the first part of it, I struggled a little bit because, obviously like some dialogue can be kind of cheesy and that, but as soon as I saw the fighting and that, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be in at least for that. And it just built and built and built upon itself. But then there was some stuff that kind of I felt didn't really get touched on as much as I would have liked it to, from what I recall anyway. Like they had like the whole king's egg thing. It's like,
yeah.
I'm like, well, what? I feel like they didn't really touch on that enough. They made it seem like a very important thing, and like it got lost and it found its way back to Griffith. And so like, I guess that's kind of an idea of like, okay, he's supposed to be some kind of powerful guy because it found its way back to him. But at the same time, I'm thinking, well, what is this thing? What is this king's egg? They don't really, I feel, describe enough as to like the history behind it, by also making it seem like it's a very important part of the story.
Exactly. Yeah, but though the problem with the scene, more unfortunately, as Paul and I will know, is the fucking god awful 2016-2017 adaptation, which is supposed to be a sequel to the movies, but holy cow, they fucked up the animation. They literally, not just the animation, like the first episode, they crammed 5 of the manga books, 5 of them, into one thing, just so that by the next episode they can hurry along to the part where Guts is, I think he's arrested and tortured for a bit by Lady Farness, who you saw in like a cameo at the ball scene in the movies. And yeah, they just rushing everything along, and when they do the 2D parts in the show, like it looks great, but the thing that makes it like so off is the guy who directs it. He only has experience doing slapstick, like as you say, Peter, the more campy kind of silly comedic side of anime, the chibi and whatnot, the romantic stuff. He's experienced in doing that. And he's never done 3D before, so he has no idea what the fuck he's doing, and he botched the whole thing, and there's all this rushing, and the guy who did the soundtrack is not even, like, he did the music for the movies. The music for the movies was good, but now for some reason he treats the post-eclipse arc kind of like he did with Bleach, because he did the music for Bleach. And now he's got like adding industrial to it and stuff, and the music's added in places where it's unnecessary and it's just distracting. It's really terrible. That's why if you come across people like Paul and I who've been following Berserk for a while, we'll tell you immediately, like even if you don't read, we'll say to you, just read the manga, because at this point in time it's kind of like Miura's stuff, because of his art style and everything, and how long the manga's been going for, and all the hiatuses he's had. It's almost like Berserk's becoming like Lovecraft's work, where it's like almost unadaptable, because if you adapt it, it's either going to turn out like, oh, it's going to just be guy killing monsters, nothing more to it, or something like that. It'll miss the entire essence as to what the story is, and that's what I think is a huge problem with the new adaptation. So I feel you, man, where it comes to wanting to find out more. That's why when those movies ended, I went back and watched the original. I fucking love the original to pieces, because it has more in it, like you say. And then I've been reading the manga ever since. It's the only manga I can say I actually read, with the exception of Ghost in the Shell a couple of years back. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely right there with you. Like, I was in the exact same boat. Like, by the time I finished the original run of the anime, I just needed to know what happened after that. Like, it gave me like a feeling of abandonment to not know what happened. So I fucking had to start reading it. Like, and even prior to that, like, I wasn't really big on reading magazines. But yeah, the story was just so captivating to me. Like, I just needed to know how it ended. And fucking 20 years later, it has not ended.
Yeah, and everyone's thinking Miura's doing the whole. He's been doing the George R. R. Martin before George R. R. Martin even put out a Song of Ice and Fire. He's the trademark of it. So, yeah, no, but I agree with you there, because I think I mentioned this to you, Peter. Now, the original anime, the anime literally ends. It doesn't show the skeleton knight come and, you know, rescue them from the Griffith of them. Doesn't show any of that. The anime literally ends with Griffith, you know, fucking up Casca. It ends right there. And then at the end, after the credits, you just see Guts walking out of a door with his mechanical arm that he now has, and his bigger sword, and he's lost an eye and everything, and he's just walking out of a door. So that's literally how the anime ends, and that's. But I mean, they kind of give it away that they survived by the first episode already, because the first episode takes place long after the events, and then at the end of the episode it flashes back to when Guts is about to fight Bazuso at the fourth. So the movies tried to take it and do it in the actual chronological order, instead of doing the future thing first, kind of showing this is the world and how do we get to this point that the manga took.
Yeah, man, honestly, leave it to anime to do a fucking scene like that. You take like any kind of Americanized like Hollywood movies or anything, and you'll find the similar ideas to like the good guy's, you know, girlfriend or, you know, person of interest essentially is assaulted in some way, which gives you, you know, a drive to hate the villain that much more and to root for the hero. But leave it to anime to have this guy fucking rape her right in front of him when he can't do anything about it. And then just like seeing the fucking rage come out of this guy, dude, that was probably my favorite fucking huge like segment of watching the entire thing. I think the animation just flourished at that point. It almost kind of looked like the newer style Street Fighter animations, and he's just like, he rips his friggin' arm out of the teeth of the beast and whatever. It just comes for blood. Like, that was just an intense fucking edge of my seat moment for that thing. And like you said, like the magical knight type dude kind of saving them from the eclipse or whatever. Just fuck, what a cool way to fucking end that. Like I said, it did end with a cliffhanger, which is a bit of a bummer. I like something like that to maybe have a little bit more like of a completed story, like maybe not even show the whole part after where she doesn't remember him or anything, you know, just, I don't know. It was so badass, and it's something I was actually just kind of popped into my head. I don't know if either you, Russ, or you, Paul, have seen the show. I saw it on Netflix. It was an AMC show called Into the Badlands.
Never heard of it. But you can tell us anyway.
It's fucking incredible, and if you really like the kind of like story arc of Berserk, this kind of has a similar feel in certain regards and not really everything, but one thing about the anime that I thought was fucking awesome and funny as well was the names of some of the armies that they came upon, like the Black Ram Iron Knights.
Yes.
But like, it's not even just that they were named that, it's the fact that like their leader comes out, we all the Black Ram Iron Knights. And I was just like, or the fucking like the purple Rhino Knights, and they all have different armor that kind of looks like their name or whatnot. In this show, Into the Badlands, it has this like, it's a post-apocalyptic show where there are like different factions, almost like these different armies that are like kind of constantly at war with one another, and each one of them has like a different like fighting style. But this is more like to the lines of like kung fu and martial arts. So they each have a different style of martial art for each different camp. They have different colors and like creeds and stuff like that, and armies that fight for them. And like the main hero that kind of breaks from those groups and does his own thing. It's kind of hard to describe it. If you check out a trailer or even just like the first episode, it's on Netflix, and you could probably stream it somewhere, I'm sure. But just so fantastic, so friggin' violent, and the fighting is just incredible. Like I've never seen, I don't think I've ever seen another live action show, aside from movies and everything, live action show that has had like such incredible choreography and its storytelling and character development in like a long fucking time. And it took me a while to even check it out, seeing it on Netflix and passing it over, and then finally watching it, just absolutely incredible. So it has that same idea, you know, like a kind of like the rogue hero who's just a super badass and can kick anyone's ass and cut their arms off and shit. So yeah, definitely check. Yeah,
same, yeah.
if you're a fan of like even just like kung fu movies and martial arts, just watching it for the fights alone is worth it.
Yeah. And another thing I want to touch on is the concept of like not just for the storytelling, but some of the concepts that Miura incorporates into Berserk. Now, I'm mentioning this because I did mention it to Peter in the messages, but I wasn't able to go too in depth with it. Now, I think one of the things that makes Berserk so endearing is the fact that it's not just Berserk. Like a lot of older anime, is that if you look at the older directors and the older mangakas, they would take influence not just from other anime that they grew up with, but stuff outside of. They'd even look at a lot of Western stories, Western franchises and stuff, and that's why they seem to stick. Whereas with a lot of modern anime now, a lot of the younger guys, not all of them, but a good majority of them, like take inspiration only from other anime, and that's why you see a lot of ones that look very similar to one another. Like we have the isekai genre, which is the taken to another world genre. You know what I'm talking about, Paul? Yeah. Now Miura took like influences from anime like Fist of the North Star, Devilman, Violence Jack, and all those really, violent, gory shit with the super buff dudes and all that horrific stuff. But he also took inspiration, like, for all the moments where you see, like, good and more hopeful stuff happen in the story. Like, he took influence from Star Wars. The whole concept for the Behelit was actually inspired by Hellraiser, the Hellraiser books and movies, because Miura's a huge fan of Hellraiser. So, because you know how the boxers summoned the Xenobites there? The Xenobites are kind of, that's where he got the inspiration for the God Hand and everything. I just thought that was so fucking rad that he did that. And also, like, a lot of people argue about this on the Berserk Reddit page, believe it or not. But I'm one of the people who's actually for it. Now, he says Miura stated Conan the Barbarian is also one of the influences on his work. And obviously, the guy who created Conan the Barbarian, Robert E. Howard, was friends with H.P. Lovecraft. And he uses some of Lovecraft's stuff in his in the Conan mythos. So I definitely think when that Eclipse thing came around, like, it definitely has a horror element to it, because but it kind of blends it with a kind of the religion thing, because as we know, Paul, in the manga, as things go along, when you see now, Peter, you remember in the movie, during that one scene where they were about to go to battle, that annoying guy Caucus, the guy's always on Guts' case, the guy's always, whatever, that annoying guy, he makes that thing that looks like a sign of a cross, but it isn't a sign of a cross, it's like a whatever the religion is in Berserk. So that whole thing turns out it's a thing for the God Hand. So it's literally the way he managed to mix in some kind of a cosmic horror thing where Guts is struggling seemingly against something that, like, no human can beat, or any force can beat, but he still presses on regardless. Just that whole thing, and I could see the similarities, but I can also see why some other people on the Reddit pages were like, no, there's no Lovecraft shit in there. I was like, so yeah, I definitely think that was an interesting aspect to see how Guts' journey is not only just interacting with other people, but now after the eclipse, just this struggle he has to avenge or regain what he has lost through hunting Griffith and the God Hand and the apostles that follow them.
Wow, that's pretty friggin' deep.
We just got better. We're entering the mesa stage, folks. Now let's go to Evangelion. No, I'm just kidding. But but another thing too is, like, I really like Casca's character as well. I really like how she too also has like a hard time, expressing things to others other than having like this tough front, and it's only when Guts joins that she starts to open up a bit more. And like Peter mentioned earlier, the whole fucking triangle between these three, like, I mean, Guts is fucking obsessed with no, not Guts, Griffith is obsessed with Guts, and the Guts likes Casca, and Casca likes Griffith. It's like this whole fucking weird ass thing, but it still rubs the relationships off in a way where when Griffith feels betrayed and makes all those bad decisions, you can be like, oh, I can get why he did that. It's not like a bad some stories where they just do it because, oh, just because, for plot says so. Like, it's an actual thing where you can see Griffith is like, I need you, Guts, you're my number one, I need you, Guts. And then when Guts is like, well, fuck this shit, I'm out. And it's like, oh shit. And then Griffith did everything wrong.
It definitely is, in my opinion anyways, one of the best character developments for a villain. He just doesn't want to stir shit up just for the sake of stirring shit up. Like, he legit has his, as fucked up as they are, he has his reasons.
Yeah, that was kind of a confusing relationship for me, at least. Like, not with Guts and Casca. That was kind of almost like a storytelling cliche, is that they kind of butt heads or whatever. They're really tough, trying to prove herself within this group of guys kind of girl. And then the guy who is kind of just doesn't really care. He doesn't really care about anybody else. He's just really out for himself, essentially. And then, because they hate each other, I knew, okay, these two are probably going to get together, probably going to see this chick's boobs because it is anime, and we did. And but they were tastefully done. I can admit that. But so that relationship, between the two of them was kind of cliche, and I could see that coming. But the relationship between Griffith and Guts was a little bit more confusing for me. It was kind of hard to read what was going on there because, like you said, Griffith was always saying, Guts is my number one, I need you around and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, well, is he in love with Guts? Because I was kind of getting that vibe.
I think he is. I think he definitely was, because I can't remember if it's in the movies, but in the series, Griffith, when he wanted to get, I think, a bunch of men or something like that, he actually slept with some lord guy, and this guy he actually winds up, funny enough, killing later at the battle for Doldry. It was just I can't remember if they showed that in the movies, but it's definitely in the series. Yeah, and it definitely showcases maybe how Griffith kind of swung that way, but it's but it also just goes to show he's so even though his goals sounded noble at first, it's kind of like he had such this lust for power, and it gave him this charisma that's just about anyone, whether it was chick or dude, was fucking oh yeah, Griffith's the best thing since Jesus, so it was definitely, it was just really interesting to see that kind of relationship and how it just spiraled completely out of control, because I said, the triangle, Guts was okay, Griffith, you're a friend, kind of a thing, and Griffith was okay, Guts, I think of you as more than that, but they obviously didn't go anywhere sexual with us or something like that, but you could definitely tell it was there. You could just tell because of it, and it's just how a toxic relationship kind of fucks things up, not just for those two individuals, but everyone around them. And it's just really interesting to see that.
Definitely. I also did get a kick out of during that little scene where Guts and Griffith fight for the first time. It's the little
yes.
Guts makes. I'll show you what to do with that mouth in the battle.
Yeah, definitely. And also when he says if I win the battle, you let me go. If you win the battle, I'll be your bitch or whatever. You can fuck me whatever you want. I was just oh, bro, don't know what you're getting in for. But no. But also, another thing I like about Guts' character is kind of I know he's this big buff dude as he gets older. You can kind of see in the earlier parts of the first movie, you can still see he's a teenager. He's still kind of, sort of built but kind of scrawny at the same time. But as he like, even though he gets like, it's so weird when you look at Guts. When you look at him, he is this big, imposing, muscular dude. But then he'll always come across another guy who's even bigger and more muscular than him, and he still kind of has that underdog feel where he's kind of like, obviously he's going to beat the guy, obviously, but it's not like in a shonen anime way where like the hero's gonna come out like unscathed and maybe have a few bruises. Like, no, Guts is like missing a fucking arm, he's missing a fucking eye, he's almost dead sometimes. And even in the manga, like the very first chapter when he encounters Griffith for the second time after he's become femtoned is with the God Hand, like he's practically unconscious almost, and he's still fucking swinging his sword at Griffith. And I was like, whoa, this guy's like on the verge of death and he still wants to fuck Griffith up. I was like, I'll give fucking applause to Miura for making a character who we don't know could be like the Ned Stark, could fucking die, and maybe they have Guts 2.0, like Guts' son, if he has a son somewhere, I don't fucking know, come and replace him, we don't know. So I'll give him props for that, definitely.
Yeah, that that was a really good part to his character, I think, as well. And I think that tends to happen in a lot of anime. Like I've said before, like, big, huge weeb over here. I'm a big fan of Dragon Ball, or at least I was for a long time. And characters like that, I think, are always pretty interesting if they're done right. The ones that are just like gung ho, always ready for the next challenge. They have enough confidence in themselves that they'll just fucking go for it regardless of whatever's standing in front of them, like a Goku kind of mentality. Like, oh, this is fun for me. I can't wait to get to the next fight, to the next challenge. Like, even one of my favorite kind of scenes in there was when Guts and Casca are trapped in the woods and ambushed.
Oh, yes, Guts versus 100 men.
Oh,
yes.
Man, he just murders every single one of them to the point where he's just completely exhausted and just ready to fall over, and then just finds the strength in him to keep fighting. I think that's it's a common character trait when it comes to a lot of different media, any kind of shows or movies. But I think anime is pretty strong with characters like that, and I think this one was done exceptionally well. It's funny that you mentioned the initial fight between Guts and Griffith, which ended up actually being a pretty interesting piece of foreshadowing for later on when Guts goes to leave, and they decide, Griffith says, "You have to fight me in order to leave." So like he gets defeated by Griffith pretty easily in the initial fight, and then over time he's become better than him and ends up defeating him. And I think that was a big downfall as well, not just Guts leaving, but the fact that it seems like Griffith felt that Guts didn't need him anymore because he's better than him now. So that just again another really, really cool and interesting character development, especially turning Griffith into the villain he becomes, regardless of like the torture and that he went through. Just like that stuff alone just kind of broke him, I guess.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's fascinating about that is like I mentioned it in my analysis video, because of the original series, the original anime used the soundtrack, the score, to indicate character development and stuff. Like, for example, they'd use Guts' theme, like in the video I mentioned, like when Guts and Griffith first meet, and the moment Griffith says, I want you to join me, Guts. And obviously up until that point, Guts is like, oh, I don't care, I don't want to join, blah, 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 like that. But the moment he feels like, somebody actually like wants him to be part of the group, and the music for his theme plays, it indicates, okay, he's going to start opening up, and he does eventually open up more. So it's a great use of that. And then the same goes for when he and Griffith fight again when he's going to leave, is the moment he walks away without saying anything to Casca and them, and he just fucking walks off. As he defeats Griffith, Casca like runs up to Griffith, and the moment Guts starts walking away, they play his theme, and then it indicates like he's going on, he's moving on, he's going on a new journey. And I thought that was an excellent thing they did in the original series. Like the movies, it was still touching and everything like that, but I think like if they maybe took Hirasawa's some of the songs from the original score and used it with Shirasagisu's compositions for the movie, instead of just having Hirasawa do the opening theme for the movies, then I think that would have really helped in a lot of ways, because that's something the original had that the movies didn't have, was the use of sound cues and everything, like using music perfectly to indicate the development of the characters, and it was very subtle, really carried the weight of the scenes, the emotional weight and everything, and you could really feel like when characters broke off friendships or were having tension, and even not just the characters getting along with one another, like even the more horror elements, like when you heard the songs like Behelit or Murder, or one of those tracks, and it just had that dark, eerie kind of a thing whenever you saw the apostles and stuff, and then the imagery looking like those old pictures of hell and stuff. It was so fantastic in the original, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out now. Probably the 1997 one. I wasn't even aware that there was the original one. I can't remember if you'd mentioned that to me before. So yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out and see how that compares. From what you've been saying, it seems like there's some stuff that I'm definitely missing out on story wise. So yeah, it sounds like something cool to watch.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. If you like that retro 90s animation with the very detailed character models and all that, you'll definitely enjoy it. Like the animation, it is limited, but the guy who directed it, he worked because the studio that animated it is actually the studio that animates Pokemon, and they do nothing but kids shows like Pokemon and stuff. But Berserk, the original Berserk, was the first mature show that they ever animated, and the guy who directed it, he was so clever with it. Like the guy just looked at the budget and was like, okay, this is what we have, so what can we do to compensate for the lack of movement and stuff that anime like Cowboy Bebop, or even if you want to go way further back to 1990, which is 7 years before the original Berserk, like an anime like Record of Lodoss War, which was animated by Madhouse, and they did One Punch Man and all that shit, and a whole bunch of other great shows. Like Record of Lodoss War had fantastic animation for 1990, but Berserk, even though it had limited animation, the character models were fucking fantastic. And as I described before, the score was used perfectly, and the guy did the backdrops, the background art, and everything, and the beautiful still frame parts really carry something about it where it's like, if you ever used to watch or read like old fantasy stories, old fantasy books, but it's a lot darker, and then you'll definitely dig it. You really will.
Yeah, as much as I'm really enjoying where the animation is today, even with like the 2D, but even going on to like the 3D stuff. I've watched a couple of other 3D anime since this one. I absolutely appreciate the older style stuff, and that's the kind of stuff that I was introduced to early on. Obviously, like before you could really get it on the internet, it was kind of handed around between friends watching like VHSs like and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, it's something that I definitely I want to check out. Like I said, I'm really just starting to get back into watching anime, and especially after watching Berserk and seeing how much is actually available on Netflix. It's something that I definitely want to start diving a little bit more into. A lot of the content that I watch on a regular basis refers to a lot of anime, and I am very familiar with like the culture and kind of keeping up with that to a degree. But it's something that I've been wanting to dig back into for a little while. Actually, I watched like last week, I watched an anime. I'm not sure if you've heard of this one. It was on Netflix as well, called Expelled from Paradise.
I know what that one is. I haven't watched it, but I've seen shit tons of trailers. It was also like a blend of 2D and 3D, and there's that blonde-haired main character. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So it looks really cool.
Man, it was absolutely cool, but also absolutely ridiculous. Pretty much any kind of anime cliche that you want to have is in this thing. The story is pretty cool, but the 3D animation and fighting is cool, and mechs and stuff. But the main character, when I first heard the character's name, I've never laughed so friggin' hard watching something. The main character's name is Angela Balzac. But they spell it B. they spell it Balzac, but it sounds like Balsac. And it's this chick. She's wearing almost nothing. Like her fucking security type outfit is just, her boobs are just hanging out. Like the first 10 minutes, she becomes this this digital character flying through digital VR space with nothing on, just boobs out and everything. just every cliche that you could think of was in this thing. But it was actually pretty badass for the story as it was. It was kind of like, have you ever seen the Matt Damon movie Elysium?
I haven't seen it yet, unfortunately.
Well,
but
it's
I know
essentially
about it.
like Earth has become like almost like an apocalyptic areas where just like the grunty people live, and out in space they have like a space station where all the rich people get to live. And this is essentially the same idea, only the thing in space. Everyone is there as a digital conscience. They have their digital conscience put into like a computer, essentially, like almost like the Matrix, but their bodies are gone, and they can create bodies for them to put their minds in and whatever. Very interesting idea, essentially, but that
kind of reminds me of the anime Technolize, except it wasn't in space. It was actually, like you say, on wasteland Earth and stuff. And I won't spoil Technolize for you, but it's one of those really existential fucking nihilistic weird anime, but it has such great art and everything, and the main character, he's such a fucking badass. So but it's such a dark ending. Like the idea you said, like the rich guys are like kind of like just conscious whatever entities basically on the web or in holograms and stuff, and like that's an immortal almost. Like I that reminded me so much of Technolize, especially what happens when they discover the surface world. I'm like, oh man, that is so Technolize right there.
I definitely have to take a look at that.
Oh, you haven't watched Technolize? Okay, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. Highly. Okay, yeah. So definitely we'll check that out. Okay, so are there any other thoughts you want to say about Berserk before we move on to our next topic, which is RWBY?
No, I think it's
Give the manga a chance. Give the manga a chance. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'll probably do that.
I'll link you to some sources. Yeah, you won't regret it. It's the art is just amazing, and as I say, if you just want to find out more what happens after the golden age, then you'll be in for one hell of a trip. It's fucking fantastic. Just make sure you make an epic playlist of some like badass or whatever music that fits the aesthetic of Berserk, and just like listen to that while you fucking read it. It really helps. So yeah. Okay, so our next topic of the day is RWBY. Now, Paul obviously said you haven't watched it yet, but if you have any questions and stuff, you can just ask or anything like that. Okay, so Peter, now Volume 5 is coming out real soon, although probably by the time this goes up, the first episode or first 2 episodes might have already happened. So, what are you hoping to see in this next volume?
I think what I'm hoping for most to see is a little bit more action, a little bit more fighting. I think that's probably one of my more, I guess, favorite parts of RWBY. I think I might have mentioned to you before, when it started off, I struggled a little bit to get into it because it is that kind of that like cheesier style of doing like the chibi thing, when people are screaming at each other and there's but it's just after I finally got into it, and just like obviously the animation started getting a lot better, and the story writing, dialogue started to get a lot better. It just gets me more and more excited each and every time. So I think the little bit more action, a little bit more fighting, I think would be really interesting to have in this volume. Obviously the last one there was a bit, but it was a little bit more toward character building. Everyone's kind of licking.
Yeah, it was more character building. Yes.
Yeah, everyone's kind of licking their wounds, from the last really big encounter, essentially. So yeah, I'm definitely hoping that there's that there's some awesome action, some big action, and to see a little bit more from some of the lesser shown characters, I guess, like Salem. I want to know more about Salem.
Yeah, Salem, definitely.
See what's going on with why are the names blanking on me? Jessica Negri's character.
Cinder.
Right, Cinder, yeah. I want to see what's going on with her because she's kind of like still kind of licking her wounds from what happened to her. So, yeah, that's really what I'm excited to see. I'm also excited to see what's going on with, again, I'm forgetting names, but we saw it in the trailer. It's the young boy who's getting called to help with
Oscar.
RWBY. Yeah,
Oscar.
I'm interested to see what's going on with him and where that's going. They're making it seem like that's going to be kind of a good, I guess like a poignant part of this volume. It was featured in the trailer, so I would have to assume that much. But I guess that's more or less what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. For me personally, the main thing is I'm a Neo fanboy. I want Neo to make a fucking return, especially with the new animation, because like I mean, the only problem I had with the earlier animation, like even though it's improved as each volume went by, is that the Neo's color scheme, like for her hair, it sometimes looked like she didn't have long hair or anything like that. It just like he has this random brown thing hanging here, and there's the pink side hanging on the other side. It just looked that way. But if with the new animation, I think they'll put like more detail and everything like that. And obviously, I want to see her go up either against Yan or one of the others as the story goes along. I want to see Yan finally meet her mom. Because Raven has had, out of all the characters in the show, she's had like fuck all screen time. So I want to see more Raven. She is so badass. And what else? Like, as you said, I agree with you there. More action is needed. Though even if not every episode is an action-filled one, like just a little bit more action than the previous volume, because I mean, I think it's time, even though they're only going to be 14 episodes, they need to start building things up a little bit more towards the next big events. Otherwise, people are kind of just going to be like, fall off the bandwagon with it, I think, at least. But, more events need to happen, because, the character, this portion of the arc feels like you know how Lord of the Rings the Fellowship broke up at the end of the first movie and they all went their separate ways, and only at the end they all came back together again. It's kind of like that almost what I'm getting the vibe from it. I definitely hope at least by the end of the volume they either all reunite, or if they don't reunite, at least most of them have met up with one another and they need to go meet so and so somewhere else or something, or rescue someone. I don't know, however they're going to spin it. But that's what I'd like to see. And like you said, definitely more action. Definitely more is needed.
Yeah, I mean, like it seems, at least from some of the trailers they've shown and some of the character trailers, that there is going to be some there's got to be some action, because it looks like they're going to be traveling. And usually shit happens when they start moving. So I think that's
definitely.
I think that's the direction it's going to take, and I can agree with you. I'm a Neo fan as well. I thought that was a very strong character. I liked her fight style. I liked doing the disguises and stuff like that. And they didn't show her actually die. So there's absolutely a chance that she can come back, because she fell off that plane or whatever. But if when you watch the first and second season, I think it was the first one, when they're still doing the trials and stuff at the school, they get launched off of a cliff, which is probably about the same height as that plane was. So if they can find their way down to the ground without dying, chances are that she can do that too. So I think there could definitely be a return to that character. I don't know if we'll see it this volume, but I'm absolutely really excited for it. The only thing I have a problem with is that one, I'm a first member on their site, so I'll be probably seeing the episodes about a week before most people.
Everyone
the
else,
the fact that the episodes are only like 10 minutes to 15 minutes, if that.
Oh yes,
oh,
that's
man, it drives me
huge
crazy.
gripe I have about the show.
I have a hard time either wanting to either just wait till a bunch of the episodes are out, or all of them are out, and binging it, and possibly having something spoiled for me, or just watch it week to week and just get the the 10 to 15 minute fix. It's almost like again, I'll reference Dragon. Well, yeah. Well, like it's like
Yes.
it's like when you would watch like Dragon Ball Z, and there'd be like this huge fight happening that lasts like almost like the whole season. You're like, oh, can't wait for the next episode. So you go to watch, because I watched Dragon Ball on TV for the first time, and like you'd watch an entire episode and nothing happens. They just friggin' talking.
Yeah, they just go.
They're just talking the whole time. Yeah, exactly, right. So this is kind of like, this is the opposite in that there is a lot that happens in an episode, but at the same time, it's like, it'd be like, okay, we're just about to get to this fight, and then episode's over. It's like, oh, damn it.
Yes.
You fucking bastards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's me in the reactions when I do the reactions, man. I sit there and I'm like, I keep thinking like, time's gonna go by like when I watch a normal episode of anime, and then barely 5 minutes later, as something good is about to happen, and then the credits roll on, I'm like, Rooster Teeth, you fucking cheap bastards, can you fucking make the episodes longer, please? So no, definitely
but
they need to work on that.
Yeah, they keep you coming back though, and that's pretty much the only way that they can make the show feel more like a season and less than just like a short film.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, if Paul, if you're interested, and if you have Netflix, the first season of RWBY, at least the first season, is on Netflix, so you can probably watch it there. Actually, you can probably watch it on YouTube now too. So
yeah, you can, and you'll finish it. The episodes are so short. Like I finished volume 1 when my cousin's what's it fuck, I'm so bad with the in-law things. No, it's his stepdaughter. His stepdaughter, they came he had to visit. We finished RWBY Volume 1 in the amount of time that they were here visiting. So it won't take up like much of your day. If you want to check out the first volume, then yeah, you're in for a treat. Monty Ohm, the guy who created it and animated mostly everything in it and choreographed all the fights and shit, like, he was a fucking whiz. This guy took all the badass fight scenes you'd see from, like games like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, Final Fantasy, and all that shit, and literally, he was genius at it. And but this is something like I like now, Peter, you'll know this. I get that obviously now, Monty's passed on, they've got every other guy, directing and choreographing everything. But do you ever get the feeling that the fight scenes in RWBY, I'm not saying they aren't epic, like they obviously are still epic, but do you get the feeling that they've become a hell of a lot more grounded, I'd say? Like, I mean, like, in the first 3 volumes, like you saw mass devastation when one character so much as lands a fucking hit. And then now in the new volumes, it's like, oh, it's maybe a wooden shed will get destroyed, but not a very big one, It's a lot more grounded.
Yeah, I think the scale of the fights I don't think has really dwindled that much, but you can definitely tell a difference between when Monty was doing a lot of the choreography and stuff like that to after he'd passed away. That was a friggin' shame and a half. But yeah, I kind of see what you're saying there. There's not as much devastation, but I think the fact that the fights seem to still have purpose rather than just being the fact that they have to have a fight. They end up like the characters are they kind of grow. So from the beginning of an episode to the end, if then there's a big fight in it, characters change due to what happens within those fights, like early on in the tournaments at the school and stuff. So I think they may have suffered a bit in destruction and whatnot, but like the creativity and everything, I think it's still kind of
that's still there. Yes.
I think Paul, if you were to check out anything, not even dive into the show first. They did a series of trailers before the show came out for each character. Watch those, just all of them in a row. It's about like 25 minutes. And it's just like little character bits and some of the fighting and stuff. If that shit doesn't sell you on it, then nothing will.
I'm sure I've stumbled upon them once or twice before. Like, RWBY has been on my radar for a while, but I just felt like I never had time for it. But knowing that, I didn't know that about that 15-minute runtime, so that makes me feel just a little bit more hopeful.
Yeah, a little more hopeful. My free time is has now the schedule is still on. Yeah, definitely.
At least start chipping away at these longer lists that we're going.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Definitely will be checking it out.
Yeah, sometimes it is good that they release like shorter, bite-sized episode shows. Like even in actual, anime as we know anime to be. Like I mean, what's a prime example of a series like that? I don't know if you ever saw this anime, Paul. The manga artist and his assistants. I don't know if you ever saw that show. The episodes were like, dude, it's so funny. Like literally, the episodes are 10 minutes long, and they were all based on these short little, like the Shonen Jump. You'll get like the odd mini manga to fill in between the chapters of the big ones, like My Hero Academia or whatever's popular now. So it's based on a bunch of those, and it's a comedy thing about this manga artist who. He's a real fucking pervert guy, and he has like his manager, his assistant, who's a girl also, and like all these other girls surrounded. It's literally the most hilarious shit ever, and it's all like in bite-sized episodes, and it fits the style of comedy they go for. So like I guess those, like even with RWBY, those kind of bite-sized episodes, like they do serve a purpose. Like if you're really busy and you just don't have the time to sit and watch like a really long ass episode or something like that. But for Peter and I have been watching this show like since it started. We were just like, oh fuck, Rooster Teeth, you got the resources now, come on.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah, I guess I kind of push this show on people sometimes, I guess mainly because I am like a really hardcore Rooster Teeth fan. It's a lot of the content, most of the content that I watch on a weekly basis. So that's what really kind of drove me to dig in and actually kind of commit to the show. So it's not exactly for everyone, I wouldn't say, but yeah, definitely something to check out. Yeah, like I got into it when they started the third volume. I tried to get into it right away. Like I said, I wasn't a big fan of the the kind of the cheesy elements to it. And then once there was enough of it out and I started binging it, that's when I guess I kind of got hooked. So yeah, it's worth checking out, I think.
Yeah, and the thing I like about it, Paul, is like obviously you got to be wary of fandoms. Obviously, you get those who spoil shit for everyone, and are just like they're just bad people overall. But like the RWBY community, this is something I'll applaud Rooster Teeth for wholeheartedly, is the fact that Rooster Teeth genuinely interact and care with what their fans, like think about RWBY and stuff like that. They've even set up a whole thing where you can submit fan stuff, and like that video game, RWBY Grimmer Clips. I'm sure you've heard of it. That was actually based off of a fan game that somebody made like on his own. When I think it was when the first volume or whatever aired, and then Rooster Teeth found this thing that he made, this prototype, and then they basically said to this guy, what, we're gonna give you the resources, we're gonna give you whatever, make the game, and then now they have the game that it is. So I like how they interact with the community that way, and every time people post like fan art and stuff, like I was sharing a whole bunch of RWBY fan art with Peter a while back after we did the AnimetalKast with him, and a lot of those artists who did that fan art, like Rooster Teeth, actually like promoted and was like, oh, check out Sakimi-chan who did these incredible artworks of our characters and blah blah blah. I really applaud them for that. I think that's what draws a lot of people into it. It's not just the product itself, but the way Rooster Teeth are like, oh, you seem to be really good at this. There's maybe potential for you to either work for us or work with us or whatever like that. And that's something I'll really give huge props to them for. So I can respect them for that.
Yeah, it's
fucking awesome. Like I've never actually heard of anyone doing anything like that before.
Yeah, I think what's kind of really awesome is how fast it's grown, how they've grown as a company and animation department. They're almost like they've almost gone on record to say that they're one of the fastest growing animes in the world, I guess, like in popularity, essentially.
It's
like
high up on Crunchyroll.
Like last weekend, they got featured at New York Comic-Con. Big banners everywhere talking about the release of the next volume. Got to premiere it there and everything. So I think it's really awesome for them and for myself, just being a big Rooster Teeth fan, just how fast it's growing and how much better. Like honestly, from volume to volume, just the dramatic changes in. And like I said, the writing and the animation, like to this point, in the new trailers that I saw, the 3D animation that they're doing on it is almost on par with some of what I saw from Berserk. So it's definitely, like I said, Berserk was definitely like a welcome anime for me because the animation style was very similar to RWBY and some of the other stuff that I've been watching. So yeah, that's kind of it seems is the future. It's the 3D anime. Style that's like I hear like the groundswell all the time. People were talking about when they first started, and a lot of different animes and cartoons started doing a lot more of the 3D thing. It was talked down upon, I guess, in the anime community because the purists really like the 2D stuff, and I really like it too. I like the blend of the two as well. But all 3D animes, I kind of think is where that industry is headed.
Yeah, they just need to make the proper transition though, like the West did, because like you even notice with Disney too. The last 2D movie they did was what was it, The Princess and the Frog, and then after that, pretty much everything they've done after that, like Frozen, Big Hero 6, all that shit is all 3D, and it's not even done with Pixar, which is owned by Disney and is part of Disney now. So you can definitely see it's transcended well for the West, but not so much for the Japan industry, because like as we were saying before when we were talking about Berserk, like the sequel series to the movies is just absolutely poor. Then you got series like and then you got what are other ones that were bad? Knights of Sidonia looks like the stiff whatever, it looks weird, and there what was it like I mean Aijin had some good moments, but overall it still didn't look very convincing and stuff, and I think even the Godzilla Monster Planet anime movie, like there are some elements of it that I'm not particularly 100% on, but I mean it's just I think they just need to find a way to do it, because there are a prime example of 3D and 2D being used absolutely perfectly, with the exception of the Berserk movies. I don't know if you've seen this movie, Peter, the sequel to the original Ghost in the Shell anime movie, Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence. I don't know if you've seen that.
Not exactly sure. If I did, I actually was made aware for myself anyway that I wasn't fully caught up on my Ghost in the Shell. I saw on Netflix that they had the Ghost in the Shell like a Rise series.
Oh yeah, that one was average. It had great animation, cool fight scenes, but the plot it was it kind of is so weird. It makes no sense in the Ghost of the Shell continuity and everything, and it's just you can view it as an independent thing, and kind of like if you're a person who never watched Ghost in the Shell before, like if you want to get a kind of a general taste of what it could potentially be like, then that's what it's for. But if you've seen the original, you'll watch it and you'll be like, whatever. It was okay, I guess.
Yeah, it was. But, it was definitely. It felt like a standalone thing. Yeah, it didn't feel like it was exactly a continuity. It was almost like its own, own separate story, but in the same universe. But I thought I thought the art style was okay. I thought the story was okay as well. But it felt to me just like it was like if you really like Ghost in the Shell and you want to see something else in that same world, it's a pretty good watch. Only the problem for me was that even like back in the day, I used to be like the biggest fan of like kung fu movies and stuff like that, and I had no problem with subtitles and stuff. But now the fact that like a lot of this stuff is dubbed, I kind of prefer to watch it in that light and with the English dub. And so this Arise series on Netflix, the first two iterations were dubbed into English, but then the third one was all subtitled, which was kind kind of a bummer to me because I was just tired and just binging, and I didn't really want to pay that much attention. And I was like, oh crap!
Yeah.
Now I want to find out how this fucking shit ends, and I gotta fucking read it now. Oh, god damn it! I'm
do
sure
you know
like,
what actually happened?
I'm sure, like, sorry, I was going to say, like, I'm sure, like, purists would fucking crucify me for even saying that. Like, oh, the original voice actors are the best in anime, and you should always watch it that way. It's like, yeah, well, I'm a lazy fucking asshole and a weeb, so I want to hear it. I don't want to read it. It kind of even distracts even more from the fact that it is an animation, and a lot of the time it's very action packed. So if I'm spending half the time looking at the bottom of the screen, you know, it takes away from it for me anyway.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. I mean, the guest we were talking to on the episode we recorded last night of the AnimetalKast, yeah, no, he likes both dubs and subs and stuff. But I mean, like, there are times like sometimes where the dub is genuinely better, or if not even just better, actually suits the kind of story that the thing is. Like, we spoke about Black Lagoon in depth. Black Lagoon's a prime example of that, because you got all these characters of different nationalities and stuff all congregated in this one place and stuff, and they had a stellar cast. And Ghost in the Shell, even Arise, like the English voice actress who voiced Motoko in that one, she was a new voice actress. She wasn't the one who did the English dub for the standalone complex, which is the best iteration of Ghost in the Shell. So yeah, they had her, the one who originally voiced Motoko, voiced the chick, the commander chick with the long brown hair, the one who was Motoko's superior. They had her voice her instead. But yeah, no, Arise was it was okay for me. Like, I didn't think it was the greatest thing ever, but I will commend it for its action scenes, and the soundtrack was good, and the animation was pretty dope. And I don't know why people made such a huge fuss about the redesign of Motoko. Everyone's like, oh, it doesn't look like Motoko. I was like, it still looks cool. What the fuck, bro? So so yeah. But yeah. No, but going back to what I was saying about the 2D and the 3D going well together is Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence, Peter. It is the sequel, the direct sequel to the original 1995 Ghost in the Shell movie. But what they did was obviously it came out, it was released during the same time they were working on the standalone complex, when standalone complex season 1 finished airing. And they were busy getting ready for season 2 to air, so they released the sequel movie, and it was actually showed at the Cannes Film Festival, and won a bunch of awards and stuff for like best whatever it was that won numerous ones. But the blend of 2D and 3D, I'll send you a few clips, Peter, like non-spoiler clips for the thing. I'll send you them after the podcast. Like, holy shit, they were like, you couldn't actually tell whether you were looking at 3D models with 2D stuff over it, or whether you were looking at 3D models or whatever, 2D models with other things attached to it. It was just blended so well, and the way the characters moved and everything, you'd swear you were watching like a live action film with some rotoscope animation aspects. It was literally that fucking good. The colors, everything. If you were, like, the only thing that gives it away that there's some 3D elements to it is the somewhat outdated CGI when it comes to certain things, like maybe some of the vehicles or the overall city shots and stuff. But when it comes to the other things, like some of the more up close and more contained scene backdrops and stuff, and obviously the characters, like, it's a trippy film. Especially the end part, there's a real trippy end part. Your mind will be fucked after watching that scene. It's like Inception. It's a thin inside a thin inside a thin inside a thin. You'll be like, whoa, what the fuck did I just watch? And it's brilliant. So I highly recommend checking it out if you want to know what happened to Motoko after the end of the very first Ghost in the Shell film, and you want to see what happened from there. And you want to see more Bato, obviously, because Bato is fucking badass. I fucking dig Bato. That guy's awesome. So yeah, I get where you're saying with the 3D thing, but it's just, I wish people would in the anime industry would actually go back and look at that film more and use that as the standard instead of fucking Berserk 2016, 2017 and fucking Knights of Sidonia. Like, fuck me. Oh, good grief. Yeah, but but you know what I'm also hoping for RWBY, Peter, is now I want to know more about Team Stark. I want to maybe see some kind of a prequel with them, and I'm hoping, like, Rooster Teeth are great with the animation and all, but I honest to God hope that maybe Rooster Teeth makes some kind of a deal with a studio like Madhouse or one of those other cool, or Bones even, and they do like a prequel movie or short prequel series with like animation like from those studios that isn't 3D, but it's just a stylistic change to kind of like separate the two eras or something like that. That would be so fucking dope. But that's just me. So any RWBY fan listening out there who's kind of like, oh, how dare you suggest that we just want to animate everything? Who cares? That's me. Fuck off.
Yeah, I don't think that expanding on lore is really beyond their capabilities. Obviously, like they had like the shorts for like the world of Remnant, where they kind of go more in depth into.
Yes.
If you want to know more about the lore and the backstory, you can check out these things, but they're not going to shove it in your face. So, and also because, like I said, their animation department is just growing and growing, and they're just getting more and more partnerships, especially with companies over in Japan. I don't think that's really far-fetched to think that maybe at least within a couple of volumes, if it keeps going as in the direction it is, that there will be like maybe some side stories or backstory for maybe some of the lesser known characters, some of the fan favorites and stuff like that. I think that's definitely in the realm of possibility. Obviously, I don't know anybody who works there. I just watch a lot of their shit, but it seems like they're just growing and growing day by day, and I don't think they're really going anywhere. So yeah, I think that's a definite possibility. There's a lot of story to be had in the fact that their world is so fleshed out. They make it feel so big, but only focus on such a small area that there's absolutely story there that they haven't touched on.
Yeah, countless possibilities. And one other thing I'd like to mention about the series is, like, you were talking about, like, how when you first saw it, you were like, oh, it's got all the cliches and stuff. The thing that I like about the way they use those cliches and stuff is like, I'm aware of some people's criticisms of it, where it's like, oh, we've seen this all before in Avatar Last Airbender and in other kind of anime-related stuff. Da, 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 da. The way they do it, in a way, it's kind of like it's the way they write it. It's literally like you don't really notice it too much if you just sitting and watching it, you know, just to be entertained. Like, I mean, like, obviously the guys making it, they do put a lot of thought and effort into it, like especially in the music departments because of the lyrics. Like, I've encountered many a RWBY fan who's like, oh, the lyrics reference this and this, you know, kind of like our metal fans are kind of like, oh, the lyrics for this band are so deep and you know, whatever. But they obviously layering some stuff there. But for like some people, like some anime fans who are like, oh, RWBY is garbage, it's like, oh, it's so cliched, it's a load of crap or whatever. I'm like, but the way it's written, it's meant like for an entertainment thing while having this subliminal thing that, you know, that all plays off with what it's based on, which is essentially fairy tales and other pop culture iconography and stuff. And I think that's what makes it so endearing, and a lot of people get into it very quickly. It's not a question of like they're trying to make the next, you know, Evangelion or the next Serial Experiments Lane. It was never about that. It was just about having fun, and I think that's what makes it such a great project as well.
Yeah, well said.
Okay, I put the debates to rest, people. You heard it right there. Everyone's speechless. Oh, great. Oh, man. So now, Peter or Paul, any final thoughts on RWBY, like as to like what you're gonna do or what you might think?
Oh, I'm definitely starting that as soon as I can. I got the day off today, so I might as well.
Awesome, great. And then you can message Peter and I and say like, oh, this is so cool or whatever. Oh no, that's awesome, man. And you, Peter, anything else, or are you good?
No, pretty much everything I'm excited for and wanting from this thing. I've pretty much pretty much covered everything. I think this show is just going to keep going and going and getting better and better. And I'm interested to see what kind of projects that they do in the future. I know they've got some pretty interesting stuff coming from Rooster Teeth, and animation is one of the ones that's a driving force behind what they do. So I wouldn't even be surprised if they come out with another anime in the future.
Yeah, that would be dope if we see another new series from them, because their stuff is just really entertaining. I fucking love their channel. Anyway, guys, that concludes this episode of the Otakast. I do hope you enjoyed it. And guys, please be sure to check out the description box below, where you will find the links to Peter's channel. Go and subscribe to him if you want to see some metal reactions and the odd weeaboo or movie stuff there. And please be sure to check out Paul's channel as well and help him out. He also makes great content. If you're into gaming and anime, be sure to check his channel out. And yeah, guys, and be sure to check out my links as well. All that's in the description box as well, and at the end of the video. And yeah, and if you want the channels to keep going, be sure to visit my Patreon and check out all the awesome reward tiers. Shameless plug. Okay, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and until the next episode, take care of yourselves, and as always, have a kick-ass day. Woo! Nice. Now I can... Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed this infamous lost episode. Again, I encourage you all to check out both Paul and Peter's channels, which will be linked at the end of this video and in the description box below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment and share it with your friends. And if you are new here, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to receive notifications as to when the latest videos are posted. If you want to see more content and get even more involved in the process, then you can donate to my Patreon, where you will have access to the monthly polls, where you can vote as to what anime or band discographies that you would like to see me review. You can also follow me on all my social media accounts, which will be linked in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. Merry Christmas to all of you, and here's to a happy and wonderful New Year. Bye!